I'm Dr. Sharon Schutz, and I'm here with Jason Nelson. He's running for Congress and in District 17. And he came in the other day, and we had a really good visit, and we've been visiting this morning, but we decided we'd go ahead and put some of it on video so you can hear some of the conversation. Thank you for coming in again this morning, Jason. We appreciate it, and I'm telling you, I love sitting and visiting with you.
I appreciate that, and you can call me Storm. Everybody calls me Storm, anyway. And they
Oh,
put it on the ballot. They were very kind to put Storm Chaser on the ballot. It kind of stands out a little bit. So.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
It's been my call sign forever, so
And I want to find out about that.
I will tell you the story, I promise.
Absolutely.
Okay.
First of all, let's talk about your family a little bit. You talked about your three little, you call them demons? I had three demons myself, so I know what it is. But tell us about your kids and your beautiful wife. She was there last night.
So I feel like we need to explain. There was a meet and greet at Centerville High School last
Right.
night. And so everybody got to meet my wife. And when I got up to speak, I said, and then I was explaining that this was a date night for us. So we have three children, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And actually it's 6, 3, and 2, but about to turn 4. And then we have a baby on the way, so she's 6 months pregnant. And the thing is our children, so I need to be clear. These are their middle names. Everybody thinks that I just name my children some crazy names. It's just that we don't want everyone to know my children's first names, but we do call them by these. It's Danger, Thunder, and Lightning. And the reason for that is that, of course, I'm called Storm Chaser, and then when we had the children, I was able to convince my wife after 3 days of labor that the first child should be Danger. And so we had, so last night I was saying, well, we're finally away. It's a 3.5-hour drive to come out here from China Spring and to go to this forum. And we were so happy to have the time in the car and then, sit there and people, I said, this is one of the nicest dates we've ever had. And I really meant that, but I was trying to explain to people who are probably parents that we have three little, and I was trying to think of a nice word for my children when they're not being super cute, and the only word that popped out of my mouth was demons. And then I said, I mean children. And I said later on to my wife, I said, I hope that didn't come across really bad. She goes, I think everyone understands.
We all had children. We understood, even us grandmas. I have 10 grandchildren, and there's a little angel in all of them.
There is. It's how they live. It's that cute time right when they're falling asleep. It's like kittens and puppies have it too. And then they all wreck the house. And how are they still here? And you go, oh, they're sleeping. They're cute right now. So, but I love my family. I got started later having a family. I'm 43 now. So to have another baby on the way at this age, I have campaign volunteers who are grandparents at my age right now, and I just couldn't even fathom that. And I say that because I've matured a lot in my life, I like to think, and I'm really proud of the fact, I think that as a father right now, I feel like I'm more patient. I feel like I physically am worn out more, but I feel like I'm more patient. I feel like when I want to teach them more. I don't think I would have had that capacity. I'm so impressed when I meet parents who are young and are able to maintain their children so well. So I don't know if I trade the energy for the maturity, but I feel like this is a good point right now. I love my children. I love their curiosity. I love their simple faith. I hate to sound that way, but they do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not even just faith in God, which is amazing when you can do nighttime prayers or prayers for meal, and they say it. You know that there's a real innocence there because they're not fully. They just see mom and dad do it, and they want to be a part of it. But it's other things. They still have that blind faith almost in humanity. They think that snake is probably friendly. They were just nice enough to it. There's lots of things about it, and it's sad sometimes as a parent that you feel like the world has lately become such a scary place, and you become more invested in protecting them. But you also don't want to get caught up in this larger narrative that the world is more dangerous now than it was. I don't know. I know that parts are. I know we have a lot more dangers that we're cognizant of now. But I want my children to be able to maintain that innocence, and I want them to be able to enjoy it. I got my daughter. She can't watch this. Okay, so Danger, if you're looking, look away. Okay, for Christmas she asked for a kitten from Santa. So we got her in a box and gave it separately. I didn't leave a cat in a box all night, but we gave it to her. And we don't want our children focused on Santa for Christmas. We don't even like focusing on gifts. You know, a few things. We'd like to go have them, well, do charity work. But it's nice to have them believe just a little bit in things that can remind them of the whimsy in life.
Right.
That it's okay to just have a little bit of joy and hope and other things like that. And you want it to be centered on God, but at the same time you also want them there can be magic in the world,
right.
for lack of a better word. And it's beautiful to be in this time of my life. And
Yeah.
I love my family so much. My wife's an under ocean photographer. Her name's Amanda. And no storm name for her. But she can live in Central Texas because she only dives a couple weeks a year because of how deep she goes in nitrogen and all that. But and she's just a great mom. She's a fierce mama bear, and we love it. We love it at our home, and we love being able to have our children and experience all things Central
Right.
Texas. Yeah.
Well, I have understood, and I have no definitive numbers, but most people who wait till later in life to have their children are more calm and more, they have matured, and it's a different relationship. And I'm not going to get off into that, but it really is. It's I had mine. I started mine when I was just a kid, and I was a grandparent at 45, and so man, I love it. I love.
Oh, I
that.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a plus in all of it. I do want to ask about your injury. I know that you were in the Army. You just retired.
That's
I want to
Saturday.
hear about your retirement
Okay.
because I think everybody needs to understand that your retirement wasn't necessarily your choice. And so tell us about that, and tell us about how you got injured.
So, well, I think it's best to preface this. So, over the last couple of years, so I come from USASOC. Well, I was in the Marine Corps first. Went to college, learned to read, had to go into the Army. And then while I was in the Army, with USASOC, United States Army Special Operations Command, I worked in Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations. Let me explain that job real quick.
Okay.
Civil Affairs is, so our job is to mitigate human suffering during kinetic operations. The word kinetic means anything that's not stable, so it could mean a humanitarian disaster, it could mean a typhoon, or hurricane, sorry, it could mean, it's done internationally. It could mean an earthquake, like we had Nepal, that my team was called up for. It could be larger issues, like we have teams in Africa that are working the Horn of Africa and Djibouti to work on economic development. It could be war zones. I went and worked with a provincial reconstruction team in Afghanistan. Our job is to go in and find stakeholders, to find people in a community, whatever that defined community is. And that's to work with non-government organizations, government organizations, private industry, international organizations, local government, anybody who has a stake
Right.
in the development and stabilization of a community. We identify them. We do. We know about this all beforehand. We do what's called an area study, and we pull those people together and we take their limited resources that they have, and we try to solve complex problems. I say try because your goal is to work yourself out of a job in civil affairs.
Right.
But what we do is we call it a measure of effectiveness. We identify the problem, we create a plan of action, and then we create a measure of effectiveness. So let's say you're in a village that has no water, and you have a number of health problems, and infant mortality rates are higher, and sanitation issues, things of that nature. We come in, we negotiate to get a well put in. We bring in the experts to build the well. We train the community how to work the pump, how to repair it. That's the well. Well, then there's a thing called a measure of effectiveness. Did the well do what we say it was? Because we didn't go into a village and say they need water. We went into a village and say they have all of these problems. What would solve it?
Right.
Water. Can we get water here? Is there a way to even drill and put in a pump? Do we need to ship it in? So we go through these sort of steps to do an analysis. After we find out whatever would solve that problem, or what we agree would solve that problem, that's when we say, okay, so we're going to put in the well. And we'll create what we call a measure of effectiveness. And that says, we're going to come back at these time hacks, these time frames, and say, at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, what do we expect is going to happen?
Right.
And that will tell us when we go back. So we come back in a month or 2 months, and we bring a medical team in, and we do sort of a general health and wellness. We check the statistics, and we start to see that the numbers are in line with what we expected, or maybe they aren't. Maybe it isn't the water. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the food. But hopefully we've done a good job, and we find the measure of effectiveness. Mm-hmm. Well, then there's another thing. So we have this thing called first, second, and third order effects. So your first order of effect of putting in a well, right, is, for example, we've disrupted the village. We've created a new gathering point. We've created a new standing water point. We've created possibly an area that might become transactionary in nature if controlled by a government or other organization or terrorists. I mean, there's lots of things you could think of that could happen.
Right.
And then what's the second order effect? Well, if we all of a sudden end up with, let's say, I don't know, bad actors controlling that pump. Mm-hmm. What do you do if now you have exacerbated the problems that existed before? So now you not only have all of the health and wellness problems you have, but now you also have a further security problem. So hopefully we've looked at these first, second, and third order effects, and we've mitigated those as well. But then you have the great unknown unknowns, as we call them, the unintended consequences.
Right.
And so that's another thing we look at. So these is a constant process. It's constantly being just put back in there and looked at. The great part about civil affairs is I'm not building one well. I'm doing that and a school and a hospital and a university, and we're also building a road system, and we're also bringing in medical teams and training doctors, and we're working with aid organizations, and we're working with foreign militaries, and it doesn't have to be a war zone. It could be just, I mean, quite frankly, it could be right here. I mean, in a foreign country, but just a town like this.
Right. You know, that's fascinating. Because, you know, when you think about Army, or you think about military, you think about planes dropping bombs and foxholes and all that. And that's a definite major part of warfare.
Right.
And military. But you don't really think about the type of things that you've been doing. I mean, you know that the Army comes in, you know that they build bridges, you know that they do certain things. But, you know, you don't really realize as laymen, you know, we don't realize exactly what you do, that there are people out there who specialize in these type of things. That's very, very impressive and very interesting.
I appreciate that. I like to think that it translates into the district because, you know, there's 14 counties in this district now, 11 full counties and 3 partial ones. And every time I go into an area, the first thing I do is go seek out, again, stakeholders. So I'm looking for, in a lot of these small towns, because these are important people with, first of all, they're feeding America.
Right.
And so you don't bypass them, but it is harder because of the density to find people. Where do you go to get information? Find out what their needs are.
Right.
The word is representative, right? So 14 counties, how are you going to do that? We have miners, we have cattle ranchers, we have farmers, we have big tech, we have little tech. I mean, we could just continue. So you have to go and talk to the feed store owner. You got to talk to I always call it the watering hole, but it could be a diner, it could be a coffee shop, it could be a tavern, it could be a VFW.
McDonald's?
Right, it could be a McDonald's. I try not to go to too many corporate places just because, you know, it's because I want to talk to the small business owners. I want to hear what are your customers dealing with? Are we seeing supply chain issues? What do you need? So obviously the sheriff, obviously the pastors, if I can find them. I don't want to make it political, but it's not me.
Right.
I'm not going out to campaign. I'm going to find, what do you need? We call it an area assessment. It's what we've always done. You identify who the stakeholders are, you identify what their capabilities are, you find out what their needs are, and then you cross-reference.
That's very impressive. I'm serious because, you know, so many people come in and I want to be your congressman or I want to be your this or that. And they tell you what they can do when they get there. But they don't really, you know, like you're talking about going out and meeting the people, which they do, but they don't go out like assessing the needs and trying to fill the needs of the people.
Well, okay, so we're conservatives. I want small government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want less taxes.
Oh yeah.
I want less regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how does that mesh with me trying to do things in the community? Civil affairs. We use minimal resources. My job is to identify where the overlap is, to go in and find those nonprofits that have overlap and say, hey, if you guys shifted mission, you know, to bring those people together.
Right.
To go in and whether it's working with public safety and helping build mutual aid yards and help them get training dollars so that their staff can remain top notch or they can keep top staff.
Right.
Whether it's helping build pilot programs for schools, elementary schools, high schools, community colleges, universities, so that they can continue to build jobs programs in their communities. All of these things, and it's all cyclical. I don't just come in and ask you.
Right.
Find out, we go back. We pull in experts. You know, we can compromise on where we want to go, but you can't compromise on how you get there. And you find the experts, you go into the community, you ask them, is this what you want? Great. Then you start to plan. But then I come back. And I come back again. And then I keep coming back because your congressman should be here 3 days a week. That is the work week. It's Monday to Thursday. So you come back down here and you keep going through and you track all through your task work, all of these projects that are working, and you maintain that constant conversation, the working group that we're putting together right now with all the sheriffs for starting the process of getting mutual aid yards. Because if I'm not elected, I'm not going to stop working for my community. I'd like to be able to have the authority to go in and get other people to be forced to come down and listen to our communities, but we still need to do the work.
Right.
And, you know, our job in civil affairs is to work your way out of the job. And you said earlier, the door kicking. I did that in the Marine Corps. I enjoyed it. You know, it was always being young and rough and tumble, but my life has always been about service. And I know people say that. It sounds kind of hokey. It's kind of like saying we moved to Waco because 79% of people go to religious services every week because that's a cornerstone of a community. And you go, just like out here actually. And he said, well, I mean, it's hokey. I get it. It's hokey to love your country. It's hokey to want to go spend a career serving people for very little money. And I don't in Congress because they like to get rich. I mean in the military. And I'm not trying to toot my military service. I know so many heroes who have served, and I'm not a hero. But I know wonderful people, and I'm proud of every little thing. I talk to my my brother, and we talk about how it's very hard when you try to discuss your service to say, well, what is this, and how does it translate?
Right.
How does it mean you can handle responsibility? I hear lots of people bragging about the things they do, and I go, have you ever run a rifle range with 500 soldiers or Marines? Let me tell you what I'm not going to get into it, but the complex thing and the safety and all of the work that's required, you don't think about it by the time you're midway through your career and you're
right.
mid-level NCO or officer, and you're going, I mean, it's just second nature. But it took a lot to build that, and that's just a rifle range. I mean, any good E6 can run a rifle range. But when you're thinking about all the other things that we've done and how it translates, you go, it is second nature, and it's hard to explain to people sometimes, not because they don't get it, but because I speak too fast sometimes and I use a lot of acronyms. But these are just the same problems that every other person in the world sometimes have.
Right.
They want good jobs. They want to be safe in their homes.
Yeah.
They don't want somebody knocking on their door and interfering in their life. They want their kids to go to good schools, and they want to eat healthy, good food.
Right.
It's pretty basic. Oh, and they want to be left alone when they go to church.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same everywhere in the world.
Yes.
And yet we don't seem to be able to provide that now.
Last night you were talking about three things three questions. I think I got them all. I listened to the video this morning, and the first one was, can they do what they say they'll do when you're talking about somebody running for office? The second was, and I like this, specialization of constituents. That's how I put it. In other words, we're not all cookie cutter constituents. We have different needs. We have different careers. We have, you have grandmothers. You look at that meeting last night. There were a few younger people there,
Right.
but the people in Trinity County that are really involved in the political process are the elderly. And I am now an elderly. But anyway,
You said that, I did.
well, that's all right.
I've never heard of a 30-year-old woman refer to
Oh,
herself
you are
as elderly.
good.
That's, I mean,
it's
if it's
obvious.
just for a discount, I think we could work that out. but
Okay, yeah,
but-
all right. Phew. And anyway,
That was that sounds very politician-y, but I would have said it anyway. Okay, good.
but anyway, and so the last one, does he have the resolve to see it through?
So,
Can you speak on that for a couple of minutes?
sure. So, let's be fair about politicians like to make promises.
Oh yeah.
I always keep saying I'm not a politician. I don't have a choice. I'm running for office. I'm a politician now.
Right.
So I'm going to lump myself in with that group. Okay? I would never trust a single politician. That includes me. Because if you trust people, you become complacent.
Oh, I know that feeling.
So the best thing in the world to do would be to hold somebody accountable. Example. I've made it very clear that I will only serve 3 terms, 6 years. Why? I have a 6-year-old daughter. When she's a teenager, I will not be in office. I'm not going to put my daughters through that. I'd like to be home. I've given a lot of time to my country. I've got 6 more years in me. I have a plan. I know that we can get a lot of manageable legislation done in that time. It's very hard when you sit here and you look at, can you get something done? Can you as a person go in and do the things you say you're going to do? So you have to make promises that you can keep.
Right.
Right. So I say you got to trust me, verify. So at the end of 6 years, you should clap me on the back. That's if I got out after 6 years, like I said I would. Well, did I do my job? What promises did I make? Well, I'm promising direct interaction at the county level with a VA rep, a Social Security rep, and a legislative liaison. I'm promising a standardized press briefing every single morning and evening, direct from the office with open transparency of schedule. I'm promising that I will be in the district 3 days a week. That means that I will be in every county at least once every 2 weeks. That means I'll be in every major, roughly each county has roughly 3 major population areas. So I'll be in each of those areas every 6 weeks. Every 12 weeks you can come have breakfast with me somewhere. No matter what. That seems like a little bit, right? You go, well, that's once every 2. It's a large county. Large district, I mean, and large counties. Can I do it? Well, what have I promised? I promised to listen to you. I promised to go and do what you want. Can I do everything you want? No. Nobody can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone who tells you they can go, I know the inside of Washington. I have plenty of great, patriotic, America First Americans who are going to be working for me. Some of them are my old commanding officers. These are great, talented people who do understand how legislation is written. But we can't just make things happen. You can't just grease the wheels up there and say,
Right.
oh, we're going to solve the balanced budget. That's not how it works. So you have to make these promises, and then you have to go and you have to come back to your community and you have to show them. Because making a promise that's 6 years out is a long time. So you have to show them that you're incrementally moving towards it. You tell people where our goals are, and if you're not achieving those goals, you tell them directly why. If they're unhappy with you and think they can do better, then they should. Every member of Congress should be primary. Every single, not primaried out, but I'm saying should be at least primary.
Right.
Because otherwise, how are you going to continue to be held accountable? Keep coming back to that word accountable. So, can I do these things? Yes. Yes. Now the follow-up is, will I? Yes. Because I'm tired. You're tired. We are all tired of being ignored.
Right.
We're better than that. We count and we matter. So we go to the second thing. If you matter, then how can everything apply to you the same as it does to me? When we live 3 hours apart in a completely different climate zone,
Right.
we don't even have the same trees outside. I mean, we're in the same district. I want to know what you want. I can't know that unless you tell me. That's what the word representative is. And because it's going to be different than mine, I have to be flexible and capable. So, I'll give you an example. We need industry here in this county. Trinity County needs industry.
Yes.
Now, Leon County does as well. So does McLennan. What's the difference? Leon County wants basic manufacturing. But they also want people to have a pathway to within that company or onto other companies through a manufacturing route so kids can have jobs and stay within their county. Trinity wants their kids to stay home. They want to move a little bit higher up the manufacturing pipeline. They want to make sure they're using talent from Stephen F. Austin, that they're looking at the marketplace, that it's sustainable. McLennan wants high tech. They want more Tesla. They want all these things. Your member of Congress needs to be able to go up there, and when they are working as your ambassador, to bring businesses to this district, bring jobs, not money. We got to stop trying to earmark money.
Right.
Do people not understand we're gonna have to cut the budget? Inflation is out of control. We
Right.
have to increase commodities. That'll increase jobs in this district, right? Mining and drilling and production. So that's how you get money in this district. You're not going to do it by getting more money through appropriations.
Right.
This district will always get its fair share. But when we do get our fair share, it's going to be used in areas that will build stronger long-term infrastructure. It's just, we're all going to talk about it openly, but it's just going to happen. There's going to be shady backroom deals or money. That I want to hear from special interests, because that includes farmers and teachers.
Right.
It includes nurses. But that includes the entire community. We're all going to be open about it, right? So as you go through that, and you go, well, you guys all need your own things. I need to be able to come down with those businesses, and let's pretend you're the mayor or community of this town. And you say, I want underwear factory here in our town. We want to make BVDs. So, or Hanes or whatever. Or some new brand, but that's what you guys want to make. And you figured out what your industrial footprint will allow. You figured out what your, the impact it will have. You figured out what your infrastructure availability is. Your representative needs to be able to bring them and bring Tesla and bring the oil can manufacturer down to Leon County. They need to have that diversity of thought and ability to do that. You can apply that across all needs. Get into mandates. Mandates shouldn't happen because we are all different, especially physically and in health.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we're going to come back to this. I won't dwell on it too long. So then we come down to the third and final thing. Does your member of Congress, does your representative have the temerity, the drive to stand for you and stand staunch on the Bill of Rights on Capitol Hill, to not budge a single inch on the most simple gun control law of all time, the Second Amendment, to not budge like a certain member of Congress, Mr. Sessions, who has raised the national debt nearly $10 trillion through his own votes in the last 20 years. $10 trillion.
Wow.
That's his voting has done that. Now, I wouldn't call that a fiscal conservative. I call that about as rhino as you get. But we're sitting here and you're going, you know, do you have the ability to go up there and say no and then have the strength to come back down here and tell your constituents why and then provide for them the assistance they need to come together and still meet mission?
With that, I have another question that
Sure.
that I think probably everybody wants to know. and to make sense out of.
6'5". Oh, not that. Oh, sorry.
When people talk about reaching across the aisle, we know that that's the Republicans coming to their constituents saying, well, I'm going to reach across the aisle to the Democrats, to the other people that, they disagree with me, and we're going to come up with something that works. How do you do that without compromise?
That's a great question. So I'm going to come right back to that 1 second. You had asked me earlier about injuries. I want to be clear about something.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm 100% combat disabled. Okay, that as innocuous, or that's sort of a nebulous term. What they refer to that as is that I do not have a Purple Heart, although I have sustained injuries while deployed. What it is that those injuries degenerated over the last couple of years, and they directly attributed to injuries sustained there. It's not a Purple Heart related injury, but it was an injury that led to that. So I have numerous things wrong with me. They're mostly musculoskeletal, although I have no hearing and other things like that. My body is falling apart, but I am more than capable. My heart and my mind work perfectly
Absolutely.
fine, and they're actually quite strong. So I am in a lot of pain all the time, but it doesn't take away from my ability to do the job. So there was, I know I've heard that comment. Between that and people accusing me of being too conservative for Central Texas, which is a weird comment.
That is strange, yeah.
I mean, I guess, but that dovetails into what your point is. So how can I be too conservative but still go and find a liberal on the left wing and get anything done? Because that's what it comes down to, right?
Exactly.
We're not acting like adults now. Well, how do you compromise? You don't compromise on where you're going. You don't. We can agree to go to, you want to go to McDonald's, I want to go to Burger King. I would never want to go to Burger King or McDonald's, but we agree to go to the Trinity Diner.
Yeah.
Much better. And so we that's our compromise. How do we get there? How far away is it?
Around the corner.
Around the corner. So do we want to get in a bus? A plane? Want to lay down and roll there?
No.
Well, we could all throw things around, but the best way to do that would be for us to casually but briskly walk together over there. That's the best way.
Right.
We could even maybe argue a little bit about how fast that's nuance. And you could streamline that later. That's a process that you can streamline. You cannot compromise on methodology. You also cannot compromise on principle. I cannot trade someone the right to ban trade with, I don't know, a slave and concentration camp owning country out of the Far East Asia and China. Hypothetically. Okay. You don't get to trade that for Second Amendment rights.
Right.
That's not up for negotiation. So if the liberal wing will not have a constructive and conducive conversation about how to get clean drinking water for kids, and to make that a priority in a first world country like the strongest country that ever existed on earth, if we can't focus on that and get that done, there are many ways that we can work with them. You can bake cookies. I really mean that. You can genuinely bring them cookies. I mean, Congress is a very large building. Sometimes you just need to go talk to somebody.
Right.
Sometimes you're just going to have to carry the big stick and call them out. And then sometimes, and when I say call them out, I mean go to them and tell them.
Right.
And then last, you're going to have to take it to the American people with clear messaging, concise messaging, that shows that conservative principles and efforts work to accomplish things that we all agree we deserve and expect within this nation. We can do that by championing the small incremental things that work on a daily basis to show when a capitalist company successfully draws a town up
Right.
out of the trenches and puts them back up on even ground. That it doesn't have to be a government program is the only one we highlight. Similar to how you never hear about somebody defending themselves with a firearm.
Right.
But we know that it happens so often.
Mm-hmm.
But you you never hear about it. They just had one in Waco. Well, we get stabbed at a gas station, and a hero jumped out and defended her.
Yeah.
You'll never hear about that. And it's the same with conservative principles when it comes to helping people. You know, charity is supposed to be something that comes with strings attached. You're not supposed to give with strings attached. You're supposed to receive with strings attached. There are expectations. Not when you give. We don't give. My wife and I, when we make our choices to give outside of tithing, we don't expect anything in return. But goodness, if I was taking aid of some type, I would expect that there would be standards for me. And it's the same thing for everything else that we do in this country.
Right. Okay, one last thing, and I don't really want to get too, it's hard not to get political with this question,
Of course.
but,
Republican. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I caught that. Today, February 1st,
Yes.
you officially have retired. You retired, what,
The
2
29th.
days ago, the
Saturday.
29th. Why are you not still active military?
So I'm going to give you sort of the short version of that. I was last summer was made aware that we'd all gotten COVID from Danger being a kindergarten down here actually. So I got stuck here for an extra week, but stuck. It was really nice actually. It's one of the best vacations that we've had as a family, was being stuck inside with COVID. And I know that there are many people impacted by that.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not in any way treating it as a joke. I'm saying for young healthy children and young healthy
Right.
adults, it was just more of an inconvenience for us. Right about that time, I was told that the military was about to mandate the vaccine. They began to push it through, and I had to seek legal assistance. I reached out to every resource I had, which through I'm very blessed to have family members that are sort of well placed, if you will, and we tried everything. We tried everything we could. I was told if I was not out by the 29th of January, that I would lose everything. So when I say everything, I was almost at 20 years total time in service, which would have given me my retirement. And I'd already been, I know how messed up I was, injured, that I was 100% disabled, which is what happened. But essentially I pushed through a medical, because they were going to let me stay in at USASOC, but they pushed through a medical discharge. And I then had to cut all of my leave and get rid of it just so I could get out by the 29th, because if I had not gotten out by the 29th and the 30th, I would have been court-martialed for not taking the vaccine. And I would have lost everything. So we lost half of everything.
The Supreme Court recently kind of put the squash on the mandates. At least that's what I'm...
For federal employees outside of healthcare sector
Okay.
And federal contractors.
If for some reason we actually get Supreme Court justices who are actually real conservatives, and we do, we have some good ones on there, and this mandate thing goes away, how will that affect the people like you who have been harmed by... My daughter works at home and has for nearly 2 years. She's got an amazing job, and she fortunately can work at home, but not everybody can. And a lot of people have lost their income, they've lost their health, they've lost their insurance, they've lost everything because of mandates that are illegal.
You know, part of what you're touching on is the frustration that every American has felt for so long, for the last 2 years. Small businesses treated with disdain while large corporations are allowed to operate. Standards that make no sense, double standards, masking. Look at California. They just had the governor of California at a championship football game without a mask, smiling, ironically with a man who has autoimmune deficiency syndrome, so with Magic Johnson, who has HIV, or I'm not sure which stage he's at, but
Yeah,
the point is he's a man who's immunocompromised,
Right.
and he's standing there smiling with him without a mask, and children are being kicked out of school for not wearing masks.
It's a crazy world, isn't it?
It is, and you think, we're never going to fix the people who were harmed by this. It's so often so many problems. You look at and say, how are we going to fix it, or how are we going to keep it from happening again? How do we do that? I got a brilliant idea. Okay.
Why does that not surprise me?
Well, I didn't say it was. I didn't think you would think it was brilliant. I think it's brilliant. Just be honest.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow, that is definitely a new concept.
As humans, we need to be willing to give people people need to be not allowed to make mistakes, but when you're going to put people with a broad enough responsibility, there are going to be things that happen. And the question is going to be, and I always say this, I never get mad at restaurants when people mess up, because I tell my wife, I just plainly tell them what happened, they usually fix it. And I don't judge people on the mistakes they make, I judge how they recover from mistakes. Some mistakes are unrecoverable. You accidentally shoot someone, you can't just take that back. But your leaders, and I hate the word leaders, I don't like that, because they're not leaders.
No, they're not.
Your leaders. You're a leader in this community. How about we just call them representatives? The person that's supposed to represent you, your employee in Washington, D.C. Yeah. I mean, we are just failing, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
And we deserve so much better. We do. And I don't think with 9% approval rating, keeping the same people in Congress over and over is going to do that.
I hear you.
You need pit bulls. We'll go fight for you. And then come back down here and turn into golden retrievers and run around this great big old beautiful district. I love this place. We love it so much. And yeah,
Well, why don't you look into the camera
Sure.
and talk to your constituents, your future constituents, if you win this election, and tell them what you want to do for them and who you want to be for them.
Absolutely. It's hard because we've been having a conversation the whole time, so. Trinity County, the entire congressional district of Texas 17. It's been a tough 2 years. It's been an almost impossible 2 years for everyone. We got here because of elections. That's just the truth. Because we don't take them seriously enough. Because we don't take ourselves serious enough to look at the people that we elect and require them to do the job that we hired them for. Sometimes I think it's because we don't know what that job is. Your representative is supposed to be here with you. Your representative is supposed to know who you are. Your representative works for you and only you. If you feel that you're getting that right now with Sessions, I encourage you to stick with that book. If you feel like you have people who are down here, whenever you have a problem with your Social Security, with your VA paperwork, with the IRS, with any issue that has to do with the federal government, when it has to do with funding programs, when it has to do with FAFSA, I don't know what it is. You feel like you're getting your representation. You deserve it. I don't think you are. And that's what you're telling me. You're telling me you haven't been getting that. Now, for those of you who have had Representative Gomer, down here, you folks have Kevin Brady. There are other parts of this district that have had other members of Congress. I'm not attacking any of them. As a matter of fact, some of them have been really great. Some of you really love them. I'd like to build on the great things they've done. I'd like to see a VA rep and a Social Security rep in every county. I don't see it. No, you're going to have one. We're going to pay for it by cutting down on staff and working harder in Washington, D.C., because we can do that. We're not going to have I'm not going to have a fancy office down here. I don't need a fancy office down here. I'm going to be in my car coming to see you. We're going to get a legislative liaison in every county. They don't speak Latin in Washington, D.C. They just like to pretend that they do. So, we're going to bring you a translator. And you're going to decide what you want your laws to be. And then I'm going to go make them happen. I'm going to build caucuses and alliances with other conservatives who will not back down or compromise on the issues that are most near and dear to you. Whether it be your firearms, your freedom of speech, your health autonomy, limited regulation, less taxes. This is your life. Stop letting your government take your life away from you. Start holding your employees accountable. I'd like to work for you. I will work harder for you than anyone has ever worked for you as an elected official. And in 6 years, when I'm done, you'll know what to expect of your representative, and they'll know what to expect of their boss. Thank you, and I hope you'll vote for Jason Storm Chaser Nelson on the ballot on March 1st. I'll work hard for you, because that's what it is. It's not hard, it's just hard work. I won't let you down.
Thank you so much, Jason, for coming in today.
I really
Sitting down with
appreciate it.
us.
Thank you.